let's see what Timmy Boy has to say in Wisconsin.
Not his makeup, but his character.
Do you think this will push public sentiment? Probably not. I think public sentiment is already there. What more public sentiment needs to be pushed? How many more polls do we need to look at on this broadcast alone to recognize that, like, you know, there are enough Americans who are definitely, like, whether they are completely paying attention or not doesn't matter. Obviously, there are a shit ton of Americans who agree with the reality that this is unconscionable. Like, what's the number? There is not, like, everyone's on the same page. Everyone's on board with this. What do you want it to be, like 90%? It's already like as close to 90% as you can get. There's always going to be some psychos. There's like going to be the Republican evangelical Christians that obviously will never get on board because they have like a psychopathic approach to the matter. They personally have the theological justifications for why Israel must do death and destruction. I am going to turn on the audio in a moment, okay? Shut the up.
They started a small business, a bakery that's creating jobs and growing the economy right there in Walz. And when I told them that Vice President Harris had no problem answering that, and I have no problem answering that, and people who love this democracy and understand we stand with our friends, it's a very simple question. Ukraine must win that war and push the aggressors back. He also had another easy one. He refused to answer if he would veto a national abortion ban. Wouldn't answer it. Well, you know why. You know why? All of a sudden now he says he's all for the support or whatever. Here's the deal. He doesn't trust women, and they sure the hell don't trust him.
Oh. It bricked. It couldn't handle the Midwestern charisma. What are you eating, big man? I'm eating what I eat all the time, which is chicken. The question and the question is always the same at this hour. And the answer is always the same. I've eaten chicken every single day for the past, I guess at this point, it's been how many years? Like 6 years? I don't know why it's not working. I don't know why it's busted.
Allow us to become the frog in the slowly boiling water, to pretend like that's any way normal or okay. Say it every single day. He lost the election. He's trying to lie about it, and he will do so again. But he says all of you are just AI, so he's not too worried about it. Your votes won't be AI, I'll guarantee you that. But with all the bluster, all the misinformation, all the inability to stand on the core values that makes America the great country it is, he also had nothing to say what he would do to make your lives better. Nothing. Healthcare plan. Remember? Came down those golden escalator 9 years ago. Got asked about Obamacare. I'll rip it out. I'll have a better plan on day one. It was 9 years ago. What we saw Tuesday night is, look, he apparently has been doing something. He has the concepts of a plan. And as I said this, if I got that excuse from one of my students, I would have laughed them out of the room for that. No, try better. Try better. Look, for him, it's a soundbite. It's nothing. For you, it's the pre-existing condition you had and your insurance company wouldn't pay the bill, means now you can go get treated. You can take your children in. You can't be discriminated against. We can get checkups on time and prevent illnesses down the road. The ACA has provided millions of people a healthier, better, freer life for them and their children. For him, it's a talking point. Let's just be honest. He doesn't know what's in the ACA. He's never read it. He never looked at it. He doesn't know. Not once did he ever worry that he would have to pay a medical bill. They're out of touch with who we are. Kamala Harris, who grew up in that middle-class family around a kitchen table where you have to decide how you're going to pay the bills with her single mom, she understands that.
I think it's pretty crazy that his like rhetoricals are being wasted on like advocating for the ACA instead of imagining and advocating for a better future for all Americans with progressive policy.
With it, friends, neighbors, family. Oh, I like Donald Trump. You know, I don't really like how he swears and gets convicted of felonies and found liable for assaulting women. I don't really like that. Good, I'm glad you don't like that. But then they always go, I like his proposals. Which one? Taking your health care? Forcing women to bleed out in parking lots because they can't get health care? Tax cuts for billionaires? And I say this, If you're a billionaire and that's all you care about, he may be your guy. But if you're a working class person, a middle class person, a community member, I can't find much there. And the thing is, you don't have to look very far. He's not giving you much detail, except it's really great. They made it easy for us. They printed 900 plus pages in Project 2025. Are you watching this? They're all mad as hell at the guys who wrote this now because it got out there. This was the thing, you said the quiet stuff out loud before we got elected. Yes, they did. No one wants that agenda. No one who's not a billionaire wants that agenda. No one wants government in your bedrooms and your exam rooms. No one wants to make drugs more expensive. No one wants to avoid dealing with climate change or making prices more affordable for folks in the middle that we're trying to do. They have no idea about any of those things. So look, these guys on the other side, you know what they stand for. Here's what I'm most proud of. I'm proud with our side of things. While Donald Trump spent his time whining, crying, grievance-filled, oh, they did me wrong, they did me wrong. It's difficult to be born with millions of dollars. It's difficult to not pay your bills. It's difficult to have the Supreme Court say you can do whatever the hell you want with no consequence. Apparently that's difficult for him. Kamala Harris spent no time doing that. She talked about you, and she talked about the future. She talked about, and again, I don't know if my English teacher wife would enjoy that I'm going there, another pun. She prosecuted the case really well on Tuesday. So, but you know what you also saw? You saw this, and you're here, and I see it looking out at each one of you. This is hard, important work. This is difficult work. This will shape generations to come. But hard work can be good work, and hard work can be joyful work. And that's what she did. She brought joy back to the idea of politics, an idea that it can be better, bigger than just one of us. In her entire professional career, she's had one client, the people, the people. And she says this, in her entire career, prosecutor, attorney general, senator, vice president, she never asked Democrat or Republican. She asked, are you okay? And what can we do to make things better? So look, we were in Pennsylvania on this bus tour. This was really great. We old school. We're getting on these buses and we're going into red areas and we're talking to anybody who's out there because look, let's just be honest, and she knows this better than anybody. We were looking out at a crowd of supporters and there was a whole bunch of our supporters with signs just like you, and we're all excited, and really great t-shirts, by the way, up front here. And then on the other side of the street were folks who weren't our supporters. It's easy to tell. They're all in the same hat. As I always say, a group of independent thinkers on one side of the street, over there, ready to go. But she turned to me, and it was just Gwen and I and Doug and Kamala Harris. And she turned around to me and she said, Tim, never forget, we fight just as hard for folks on this side of the street as folks on this side of the street. That's what this is about. This is why talking to your neighbors, as Gwen said, this is why the work of the next 52 days. People are undecided. Look, I think it's pretty obvious. Most people don't like him. It's not. If this were about having the best ideas or the best candidates, I think we would win most of the elections, because that's the way it usually works out. But that's not what happens. This is about hard work. It's about going out and talking to people. It's about telling them what it matters. And the things we're talking about in this room will help folks who are buying those flags, wearing that red hat, and believing that Donald Trump's with them. What you know is health care for their family, good public schools, infrastructure investments, the right to control your own body. All of those things, if you ask them and talk to them as neighbors, they're going to say, yeah, I'm for that. Then you need to remind them, he's against all of that. He's against all of that. So look, as that prosecutor, she had to take on predators, fraudsters, people trying to cheat you, career criminals, big corporate interests who think they're above the law. Now, it was easier the other night because all of those things were wrapped into one person, so you could take it on. But the fight was there. The idea that we lay out a plan, an opportunity economy plan, one that knows, because she grew up in the middle class, she knows that it's not enough to get by. We've all been there. It's not enough to get by. People want to get ahead and thrive. And in this country, the richest country in the world, there is no reason that the gap between the CEOs and the folks who are doing the work, the labor that's doing the work,
it sucks.
The most basic
it's so
democracy
good.
Is the ability to collectively
He is
bargain to
such
get
a
something.
good orator,
They're
man.
doing just fine. But you
He's
don't
such
need
a good
$4 billion
speaker.
when people are just trying
He
to
is
get by.
so
We
goddamn
finally started
charismatic.
because of the work of
And it's such a waste to have him up there
we're seeing wages finally start to keep
talking about Kamala Harris's $50,000 for startups or whatever.
I said this. She wants to make homes more affordable. Because you know why?
Of course he's better than Harris. Come on. Yeah, yes.
To buy that house. I watched my mom worry after my dad died and the medical bills there. Will I be able to keep my house? For those guys, a Wall Street guy, a 6-time bankruptcy guy, a venture capitalist guy, those are just commodities trading. If it means foreclosing on somebody, do that. If it makes you money, who cares? But those are our neighbors. Kamala Harris understands that home is the foundation to families and community. That's why she wants to make it easier through down payments, helping builders create 3 million more new homes, and working with local folks to make it easier to get those homes built and permitted. That's right. And when she talked about prices and price gouging, it was fascinating to me to watch how fast Donald Trump and his running mate jumped on to defend price gouging. Look, 37 states already have laws against that. But the thing that really gets me is we're trying and figuring out how to keep prices lower. Our farmers are working dawn till dusk, and they're getting $3.90 a bushel for corn and $10 for soybeans. They're not getting rich. They didn't grow the food. They didn't process it at the factory where labor did that. Somebody's pulling off a chunk of money out there that has nothing to do with getting that to you. That's what she's talking about. If you're jacking up the price illegally, you should stop that. And one of the American dreams is to choose your path. And none of those paths should be closed out. The idea, if you've got an idea for a small business, it should be easier to start that small business. That's why she proposed increasing the tax credit so you can get up and off the ground. Making sure then that you've got health care so that that doesn't drive you out of a small business. And then making sure your neighbors are being paid enough that they can actually spend money at your small business and everybody thrive. Look, I know you've got it here. This is the part, this ability to be able to collectively bargain and organize. Let's not forget our history, America. The labor movement starts in Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin. So the idea of investing back to the middle class, the idea of growing from the inside out, the idea that everybody can have a place in this. We have a Minnesota saying from one of our senators who we lost way too soon, who says we all do better when we all do better. It's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. But these guys figure out a way. We want more and more and more and more. More tax. I will say this about Donald Trump. He was very clear on one thing and he followed through with this. He told the billionaires he was going to give them a tax cut and he did it. Project 2025 promises you again. He will do it again and bigger. So let's be very clear. When he does that, it cuts out opportunities for all the rest of us. When they do that, it undermines our ability to do the things we know need to be done. So just to be clear, and something you know about right here in Superior and Duluth, that Donald Trump talked a tough game about infrastructure. Kamala Harris got it done. By the way, that Blotnick Bridge is built by all of us. That's the guy who's trying to figure out how to not pay his damn taxes so that he doesn't have to fix it. All of us understand that that bridge creates economic opportunity, connecting us together, both physically and as a people. It makes good sense. And I'll tell you, you saw it. You saw this idea about freedom. And you've seen, it's really great. It's not just a song that the vice president comes out to, although that's really cool when she does that. But you saw it in Chicago, you hear us talking about this idea of freedom, the idea of what it means. Freedom to live your life the way you choose to live your life. Some of us are old enough to remember Republicans used to talk like that too. They used to talk about freedom. They would have never turned their back on an ally. They would have never decided that they needed to be in your business. But we know now they want the freedom to be in your doctor's office. By the way, Project 2025, some of you want to know in there, they've got a national pregnancy coordinator that tracks all pregnancies. That seemed like too crazy for George Orwell to put in his book, but they did it. They did it. Look, they want to be in your school library. I don't know about you, but you heard Isabella talk about it. In Minnesota, while those guys are figuring out how to ban books, we're banishing hunger from our schools. That's a big difference. And again, I want to go back to those old school Republicans.
You should talk about banning the top of the hour ad break, which comes to the top of every hour. If you no longer want to see it, all you need to do is subscribe for $6 or for free. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Twitch Prime is free, folks.
But the personal choices and the personal freedoms, we respect it. We respect it. We may not agree with it. We may not agree with that. Look, I get it. There's some of you choose the Packers over the Vikings. That's your choice. It's your choice. Oh, give it to me. Give me my moment. Give me my moment. We don't have any Super Bowl rings. Just give me the moment. But look, we may not agree and we may differ, but you've heard me say it, and I know it's a Wisconsin rule. I claimed it for Minnesota, but I know you've got it here too. The golden rule that makes everything work better is mind your own damn business. Mind your own damn business. Think about it. How is that not appealing to Republicans? How is that not an appealing thing? They want to be and make every damn decision. Think about what they're saying in Project 2025. You're going to have to register with a new federal agency when you get pregnant. This is personal, people. It doesn't get much personal. For Gwen and I, you've heard our story, and we've heard other people have to tell their story. Look, nobody wants to have to tell their personal stories about their families unless they're asked about it and it's in private conversation. We have to tell these stories because these guys weirdly are obsessed with our bedrooms all the time. All the time. And for us, it was a struggle, a years-long struggle with infertility. And we were blessed that we had access to those treatments. And you better bet, if you haven't had it happen to you, you know somebody who's gone through it. It's hell. You're waiting for the call, you get the call, it doesn't work, you're back at it. And then there's the two of you wondering how. All you want to do is have that child. So you better bet in our family, when we finally had that little girl born, we named her Hope for a very particular reason. And she, like all of you, and I say this, she and Gus are Gwen and I's whole world, just like your children are, just like how you choose to live your family. And we're talking about it because these guys are trying to make it more difficult to do that, or if not, impossible. Because very clear, they're not stopping with national abortion ban. They're not stopping with getting rid of fertility clinics. They're talking about getting rid of contraception or any type of help any of us need to manage it. These are personal health care decisions. These are personal health care decisions. So think about it. This is pretty simple, and Kamala Harris makes it pretty clear. I would go out to all of your neighbors and make the case on this. Do you want J.D. Vance deciding about your wife and daughter's health, or would you rather just leave it to them and their doctor? That's what freedom looks like. That's what freedom looks like.
Has Tampon Tim talked about filling men's bathrooms with them? You're a weirdo. You're weird. You're a weirdo. Mind your own damn business.
Minnesota, we're known for our schools. We're known for our education. We know that that's a ticket to the middle class, shouldn't be a ticket to debt. So be very clear about it. Investing in education, investing in our teachers, investing in the future is another one of those. When we all do better, we all do better. It's that simple. Now, we're getting closer on this 52 days, and it's a binary choice. I know, it boggles my mind too that there are two people who are going to be president. One of them is going to be president, the other is
I'm going
not.
to unban him.
There are two people. One of them is going to be vice president, one of them is not. That Project 2025 and the questions and the discussion we're having here today is where that difference lies. Because that program, and I say this from my mother, who survived after my dad died on Social Security survivor benefits and who counts on that check right now, Kamala Harris has pledged, and we will pledge, to protect Social Security and Medicare with everything we have.
Good.
This one is the difference. People see the world from where they stand. If you stand in a middle-class living room, if you stand in a union factory job, if you stand in scrubs as a nurse helping, that's a way to see the world. That's a way to see the world. If you stand, or more likely sit, in Mar-a-Lago, or in a venture capitalist high-rise on Wall Street, why would you care if the Social Security check shows up? You don't care about it because you don't need it. So you're looking for the tax cut. Well, I'll tell you who does need it, my mom. She pays for her heat. She pays for her food with her Social Security check, and it is the best anti-poverty program ever devised in this country, and we have to push it. All right, so here's the deal. I say this. I know very clearly, you might not have thought so, but I know it. I am preaching to the choir. You came, stood in line, came with your neighbors, ready to do something about it. As we started out with, because you love your country, because you know the choice is so stark, and you know the impact we can make. You came to do it.
The Tampon Tim Walz thing is awful. My sister started posting that shit on our Instagram stories, and that's how I knew she was truly gone, like my parents. It's also fake, which is like, obviously, one of the funniest aspects of the Well, I mean,
I'll
not
go
one of
to
the
my
funniest, but
grave
like
not
it's just the
understanding
same
it,
over
but
and
I
over
know
again.
a
It's
fact.
fake. It's not
This is
real.
going to be a margin of error race, and it's going to be won in a handful of states. One of them. is the state
It's
of
funny
Wisconsin.
because like even if it was real, who gives a? Which makes it even
So
funnier.
let me, as
Like
these
yeah,
guys help me with, put on that coach
if
shot,
like every
whistle,
single
and,
Haitian migrant
get that
was
hat
actually
back on.
eating, like
This
stealing people's
thing's gonna
domestic
be a battle
pets and
for
eating
the next
them,
52 days.
that would constitute
It's
some
gonna
level
be
of an
in
issue.
rooms,
Obviously,
one
it's
and
fake,
just like this,
and it's
door to door,
but like
call to call.
But like
$5
if
donation.
Tim Walz actually pushed for a
Trying to have
bill that there
hard
were tampons in
conversation
every
with the
bathroom, including
style with the
men's
person you saw
restrooms,
there at the
that would
grocery
not even
store
be like a
and
negative
ask, have you
thing.
voted yet? And are you concerned about Social Security? Are you concerned about climate change? Are you concerned about our democracy? Are you concerned about middle class? Are you concerned about those things? Because if you are, ask that person to
You know what
sign
I
up.
mean?
Ask them to get the vote. Look, this is on. Wisconsin starts next week in voting. Next week. So for all of you, I know it's hard work. I know that, as I said, it's hard to understand that it shouldn't be broader, but that's our country's here. These guys have spent the last decade telling us our system is broken. They've spent the last decade figuring out how to make it harder for people to vote. They've spent the last decade trying to make people pessimistic to believe it doesn't matter if you come to rallies like this, or if you vote, or if you call your neighbor.
Chatter said, wait, he didn't push for that bill? Do you think Tim Walz, honest to God, pushed for a bill that specifically stated that men's restrooms have to have tampons in them? Is that what you think happened? Or was the bill for tampons in all bathrooms for women's restrooms and unisex restrooms that exist everywhere in Minnesota? And then Republicans just took that and went, Tim Walz only wants to put tampons in men's restrooms because he wants to trans the children. What do you think is the real story here? Oh. Obama? He doesn't have my juice, but he's close? What the? Obama in the chat.
I'm honored to know, and I keep saying this, we have some philosophies in the middle. Some people, when we started settling, people started going across the country. Some of them kept on going until they ended up a place where it's really warm and they have palm trees. Not our people. Not our people. We stopped here. We stopped here to carve it out. Because we're tough, we care, we're resilient. And we understand that when you stick together, we can get this done. So for all of you here, all gas, no break, 52 days to get the work done, sleep when you're dead. Let's give it our all and think about it. That 53rd morning, when you wake up, we get to say, congratulations, Madam President. Let's go.
It is, I mean, oh man, I don't know what to say, man. He is so good. He really is truly exactly the kind of like Midwestern pro-labor charismatic orator that you want from a successful campaign that could just run the goddamn table if left to his own devices. He's relegated to the VP status in this situation, a campaign where he has to communicate the silliest policy prescriptions that Kamala Harris comes up with. Okay?